Do we really need to use sugar? What would be the advantages? Why would we do that? What time should we put it on? Hey, Rod here at A Better Way to Farm, where we increase yields and improve profits. And I want to talk to you a little bit, give you some more information. We have done a podcast on this before, so we're going to put this into the podcast form and onto the Facebook page. And we look forward to you guys getting some good information here. And hopefully we'll generate some questions and you'll want us to talk. We appreciate you tuning in today. We're always welcoming you to our current episode, and we're grateful for the time that you take to tune in and see what's going on. We appreciate the comments that we get back. I love the calls from people. I talked to Grant last week from over in Western Missouri, and I had a great conversation with him, and he was talking about some of the different things that we do on here. And today it's sugar. And so let's do a brief overview. First of all, let's talk about foliar feeding, not sugar, but just foliar feeding in general. Why do we do that? Well, because we want to stimulate the plant. We take a tissue test, we're looking for mild deficiencies, we're going to correct those, but we're also going to just stimulate that plant in order that it will go out here and do more, that it will just drive more roots, that will build more mycorrhiza in the soil, and that symbiotic relationship will work to bring in more nutrients, will take up more moisture, will stimulate that plant, will get more leaf growth. And when we do all of that, we increase fruit set, we increase yield. And so we know that foliar feeding works. We know there are benefits to it. We know it's not for every place. You know, we look at those spots that are really, really bad. We're not going to save those. That's not what we're after. Our goal is to take care of those good areas and push them to do way better, because it is based on a percentage. Guys, we know that sugar in plant health and nutrition is very important. As a matter of fact, I was looking on my computer here just a few minutes ago, and there are studies clear back in 1957 talking about the benefits of putting sugar on row crops, talking about how it helped with hanging on to buds, how it helped with flowering, how it helped with a whole bunch of different things. And that was university research that was done, 60 years ago, over 60 years ago, 67 years ago. And so when we start looking at all of that body of knowledge that's out there, all of a sudden it's like, why are we hesitating? What are we thinking about here? But let's talk a little bit about it. We know that sugar is going to be important in plant metabolism. We know that sugar is going to enhance nutrient uptake in that plant. We know in a foliar application, sugar is, of course, sticky, and so everything sticks to the leaf and stays put just a little bit longer. When we start seeing how it can improve that nutrient absorption through that stimulation of the beneficial bugs, all of a sudden we can see yield increase, and we know that it's there. And guys, I want to draw a distinction here, because there's two ways to do this. On the one hand, I'm talking about putting sugar in with your foliar feed, where you're using high pressure, low volume, and you're putting on nutrients in order to really stimulate that plant. There are other people who are using sugar in other applications quite successfully, maybe with fungicide, maybe with a post-emerge chemical pass, always in furrow in the trench when we're planting. And so we've got a lot of ways to do this, but today I want to talk about, obviously, we're past the planting stage in most of America. And so we are going to be talking about, are we going to do it with a foliar feed, or are we going to do it with a piggyback with some chemicals of some kind, whether it be fungicide or herbicide? If we can improve that nutrient absorption, which we can, if we can enhance photosynthesis, which we can, and we can improve stress tolerance, all of a sudden we see reasons to do this. Because why? Those are going to result in yield improvements. Guys, I want to revisit something that I did on an earlier podcast, but I have a paper here in front of me, and this is put out from the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. And they were talking about different things that sugar did. None of this is my stuff. Everything I'm going to do until I tell you differently is a quote. One of the things that they found here was that adult lacewings and lady beetles have always responded positively to the application of sugar water solutions, as did other beneficial insects such as the adult weevil, big-eyed bugs, minute irate bugs, and adult hoverflies. It also goes on to say that applications of sugar water were made in Honduras and studied there with a benefit to corn, with beneficial insect counts made immediately and 1 week after application. Beneficial insects were 70% higher in the sugar-treated plots than in the untreated plots immediately after application, and twice as high in the treated plots 1 week after application. They also found an 18% reduction in fall armyworm infestation and a 35% reduction in leaf area damage by fall armyworms in the sugar-treated plots. This suggested sugar applications to corn allowed natural enemies to be concentrated and resulted in a reduction of fall armyworm infestation and damage. Guys, that's not me. This is a quote from a paper that you can find at the University of Nebraska and coming out of Lincoln. Another thing that they did was they quote a study, a fascinating study, as they said, a fascinating recent literature review shared the role of sugar in plant mechanisms such as photosynthesis, carbohydrate transport, growth and development, and in the roles of plant defense systems. It cites a 2007 study in rice that evaluated a number of factors, including sucrose added to the root system in wild-type rice plants and sucrose sprayed on the leaves of rice prior to being inoculated with a fungal pathogen, causing rice blast. Sugar application to the root system resulted in an overexpression of genes which induce defense mechanisms within the plant. Spraying sugar solutions to plants foliarly and via soil drench resulted in half the disease pressure as the control plants 1 week later. 15 days later, control plants exhibited severe disease compared to the sugar-treated plants, suggesting a foliar application of sugar just prior to an attack by a plant pathogen could signal plant defense responses, resulting in increased plant resistance to the pathogen. The researchers noted that all the plants were at the 4-leaf stage during this research and were curious if the induced resistance would continue in the plants as they matured. Yes, guys, they did that with the intention of infecting those with that fungus. However, we also know that fungus type diseases, fungal diseases do come and get us. They come and get a hold of us and they wreak havoc. And this research that they're finding, I didn't have it in this article, but in a previous article that I had read, it talked about that there was a USDA, it is a quote from someone who works for the USDA, talking about the benefits of sugar as an insecticide. And I'm not here to say that, I'm just here to quote the experts who are. Guys, we're talking about something that's low dollar. We're not looking at a big investment. We're talking about the fact that this is super important. And there's a body of research out here that you guys can go find that can talk about how important it is for plant health, how it's going to help in plant nutrition, how it's going to help reduce stress. When we start looking at what does it cost, you're talking about something that's somewhere between $1.50 and $2 an acre per application. Now, a lot of our guys are putting it on when they plant. They're doing it again when they post-emerge spray, and possibly when they're doing some fungicide, or if they're foliar feeding, they're putting it on there. 4 trips bought correctly, you're looking at about $1.50 per acre per trip. So $6 an acre, we're talking about less than 2 bushel of corn here, obviously less than 1 bushel of beans. Another study that I read that I'm not going to actually read out of here, but I am going to quote to you, talked about the fact that one year they applied sugar and they didn't see a yield increase. However, it was in corn and they saw a significant difference in stalk diameter, and they saw a significant difference in standability, that the corn that had been treated with sugar was standing better and had a lot lower likelihood of lodging or going over. And guys, we know that we want to do anything we can to keep that corn standing up and make sure that it's there. One of the common mistakes that we make in agriculture is we assume that if a pound is good, a ton would be better. If an ounce is good, a pound would be better. We find in our experience that that is not true with sugar. We would like to see multiple applications if you so desire, but we're going to put on 16 ounces per trip of our product. We don't want to put on a gallon. We don't want to put on 10 pounds. We don't want to do it all at once. We want to string it out throughout the growing season. And as a matter of fact, we have seen ultra high rates of sugar in an existing crop go sideways and result in a yield decrease. Now, we've seen bodies of work where they're applying high rates of sugar as a stock digester, in the fall and doing a lot of other things with it and comparing yield results the following year, and that has been very promising in that body of work that's being done. That was being done up at Iowa State. So I would just say there is a cost benefit here from doing this. If, like anything else, if we do it correctly, and we don't want to overuse it, that is a mistake that we see people make, and we do not want to duplicate that. We do not want to come out here and think that we're just going to apply a whole bunch all at once and that the angels will sing and manna will fall from heaven, because that's not how it's going to work. We need to do it correctly. Some people talk about the fact, they say, well, all right, where do I get it? Why yours? And the reason is, number one, you can go to Beck's and you start looking through the Beck's research at what sugars are working. And I think you'll see very quickly why you want to use our sugar. And the part of the reason that it works is we have 3 different forms of sugar in there. So those have a little bit different mode of action, so to speak. And then we also have some fulvic acid in it. And I know a lot of you guys are either using humic acid or fulvic acid. And so consequently, we are seeing good responses with that. It's easy to use. It's a liquid. You know, when I first started 32 years ago, wow, that went fast. When I started 32 years ago, at the age of 10, I might add, when I started 32 years ago, we were using sugar. The guy who was my mentor and taught me a lot about this said, we've been doing this in soybeans using sugar and water and getting a good yield response. And I thought, you have got to be kidding me. And I tilted my head and I was like, okay, I'll try it. And so we were dissolving cane sugar, CNH, pure cane sugar from Hawaii, granular, in hot water and putting it in furrow. It was kind of inconvenient. They looked at you really funny when you went and bought a whole skid of sugar. They kind of thought you might be doing other things, but it worked. The bottom line was we got a yield response. And so we've been promoting the use of sugar for many years. And a few years ago, we came out with our own. It's a little easier to use. We don't have to use the hot water dissolving method to get it in there. And so it's a lot better. But, you know, we're going to be able to take care of it. If you're interested in some sugar, if you're catching us on a podcast, you can go to Facebook and find us and send us a message. If you're seeing us on Facebook, feel free. You can jump in here and send a message, and Karen will get back to you and talk about how it is that we can set you up with some sugar. Guys, it's easy to use. It comes in everything from 2.5 gallon jugs up to 250 gallon totes. And so obviously at a pint per acre, a 250 gallon tote's going to spray about 2,000 acres one time, or 1,000 acres twice. And so it's very easy to get a hold of and very easy to use. And we just want to encourage you to do that. You know, the fact of the matter is this: you can look at Beck's and see real world studies. You could show up at our fundamentals of agronomy training at the end of the month, and you can talk to growers who are using sugar, and they can talk to you about the results that they're getting. The fundamentals of agronomy is fantastic for 2 reasons. The information is solid dynamite, but the opportunity to network with other guys who are trying other things and take years off your learning curve is invaluable. It's a great place to make 50 new friends who are wanting to do what you're wanting to do and make more money. They're trying to figure out how to grow that bushel of beans, that bushel of corn for less dollars. As we come into this environment that we're at right now, cost of production's never been more important than what it is. And so we're going to do that. Guys, this isn't hard to do. If you're going to be out there spraying a fungicide, you can put it on with that. If you're still post-emerge spraying chemicals, you can put it on with that. If you're going to foliar feed, you can put it on with that. The bottom line is it's simple to use. And I just want to encourage you. Sometimes it's interesting. You know, I talk a lot about soybean populations, and I'm amazed at how many guys will have an argument, write up all kinds of comments, be almost hateful that you got to do 240,000 or you got to do 185,000. You gotta, but they've never tested it. Guys, it's easy to do a test. Soybean population, just run some strips. Why have an argument? Just try it. Sugar, I'm not asking you to invest $1,000 an acre here. I'm saying, would you gamble $2 an acre on a few acres to see what happens and to learn? The bottom line is just the learning is worth great value. You know, throughout the course of my life, I've made a ton of mistakes. And sometimes people come to me and they say, man, that cost you a lot of money. Is that really upsetting you? And I was like, nope, I just got another master's degree. I actually don't have a master's degree, but from the mistakes that I've made and the lessons that I've learned, I have 10 master's degrees and maybe a few PhDs. And so I feel like there is great value in the education. And so why not? Why not give some of it a try? Why not look and see what you can do? Why not see the response that you can get in your farming operation? And guys, we can have this to you within 4 to 5 days painlessly. It'll show up right at your house. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything. You just got to talk to Karen or me or some of the other team, and we will take care of you. I appreciate you tuning in. If you find value in what we do and you're on a podcast platform, give us a rating. If you find value in what we do, share us with a friend. But thank you for being part of the people that we get to spend a little bit of time with each and every week. I hope that your summer is going great. I hope that you have a tremendous growing season, and I wish you much success. Guys, as always, we are hoping that you have a better day.